Live tonight from the race. Oh, goodness. Live tonight from Chicagoland Speedway. It is the Red Light Scrambler Series here on the Racing Line Broadcasting Network with seven drivers are about to race it into the top four tonight, one of which has already locked himself in. Last week it was Sean Butler with 8 wins, making his 8th win of the season just last week, locking himself into the top 4 for Atlanta Moore Speedway. 7 other drivers will be fighting it out, and we'll see who those 7 drivers are and where they will fall for this race. This is the Racing Line Broadcasting Network. So, welcome once again to the Racing Line Broadcasting Network. As per usual, I am the one-man and crew over here, Gary Weaver, on commentary and production. Your regular picture will be coming back in just a few moments, just after qualifying finishes up, trying to figure out what is going on with the slight issue that we have over here in terms of the data bindings that we have set for the playoffs, at least the drivers in the playoffs. So let's see if this is actually correct, just to make sure. Apparently that one is far from correct, so everything should be working properly here in just a couple of moments. Everything should be also showing up properly in a few moments as well. And I'm just going to get that set up and saved. Just to give you a recap on who is where in terms of the point standings, well, we have, as apparently one thing has been forgotten, unfortunately, but in terms of the standings, locked in, of course, is Sean Butler. Now we have Max Terrio, William Long, Richard Murdoch, DJ Anderson, Leo Bordage, and James Skelton. As well, in order from 2nd to 8th in the point standings. So that's going to be pretty interesting to see where they fall in after this. Especially since, again, Richard Murdoch, I've been mentioning this every week, and so far it's gotten him through the first, pretty much the entire portion of the playoffs, but he has mentioned before that if he does get into the top 4, he will bring the flames back on his car for the last race over at Atlanta. That'd be pretty interesting to see a little bit of nostalgia as well from the first race of the season. So qualifying should be wrapping up here in just a few moments. We're going to double check to make sure that everything is working properly before we get the picture back up in full. But there are about 6 seconds left in qualifying, so I'm personally hoping that this does work out. It looks like it will, so perfect timing as well, as the starting grid will be shown at the bottom of your screen. We'll see who starts where for Chicagoland, the second to last race of the season here for the Red Light Scrambler Series. So starting in the first place position, it will be the 88 of Sean Butler. Andy Lee to his outside starts in the second place position, just 7 thousandths of a second off of Sean Butler's pole position lap time. Directly behind them, it will be Richard Murdoch in third place. Fourth place going to be Eric Johnson in the 33. Fifth place being rounded out by the 98 of Ryan Oldani. James Skelton starts in 6th place. 7th place going to be the number 10 of Tim Blum and DJ Anderson in the 51 just on the outside of that Interstate Batteries vehicle. And it's going to be in the 8th place position. Starting in 9th will be Max Terrio. William Long in the number 12 starts on his outside. Rounding out the top 10, Christopher Rothrock in the 984 starts in 11th. 12th going to be Joshua Buckley. 13th going to be Patrick Orr. Kevin O'Brien rounds out your 14-car field here for Chicagoland. So expecting a little bit of a long green flag run. Going to make sure apparently that will not appear properly. So that will be fixed in just a couple of moments. The pace car decides indeed to roll off, and we'll see what happens within these 90 laps here as we get the graphics reset. Everything should be, however, working properly nonetheless. And thank everyone once again for joining here tonight for this race. So this is going to be quite interesting. An interesting 90 laps, 14 drivers. So we're going to see how well these drivers fare in a track that's, in a sense, similar to Auto Club Speedway, but of course not exactly the same. As well as the fact that these drivers are in a different car as compared to Chicagoland, Auto Club, where they were in the Cup car. So they're going to be using essentially, well, actually in that case, it's going to be the same vehicle, but we'll see. I'll see how everything plays off here for this week. So the field is let down by Sean Butler. The green flag is out. We are underway at Chicagoland. So the field is led by the 88 of Sean Butler. As they head down into turns 3 and 4, once again, Richard Murdoch directly on his back bumper. And of course, Sean Butler is the only driver, I believe, on the ticker that is labeled in green. I'll wait for that to go by as Joshua Buckley, as Richard Murdoch is all on top of that back bumper. So Sean Butler, yes, is labeled in green. Now Richard Murdoch coming into this race as he gets by Sean Butler for the lead coming into this race. We'll see. I'll give you another recap on what position Richard Murdoch was in, but this can help him out, as Murdoch was 4th place in points coming into this race. Drivers that really need to make it up are James Skelton, who is 20 points out, actually. 10 points. Actually, scratch that. 8 points out of the top 4 coming into this race. So we're going to do a little bit of, we're going to be doing a lot of rough math by the end of this race. In the meantime, we'll see if anything comes of this, because the 10 and the 98 will be constantly battling side by side here through turns 3 and 4. Looks like Ken Blum will get that advantage just off of turn number 4. DJ Anderson, however, thinks, well, you know what, I'm going to look down to the inside. And he immediately takes advantage of that. Great job. Ryan O'Donnell, however, has other plans. Wow. Well, Anderson not really going to be a fan of letting Max Terrio by for the time being. Halfway point of this race will be lap 46 technically, and we will be taking a double wide break at that moment. But for the meantime, we'll see if we can bring you anything uninterrupted for the most part, as Anderson peeks down to the inside. A little bit of sunset, but possibly some cloud cover for the sun as well here at Chicagoland. Possibly a combination of both. A bit of a side-by-side battle. Max Terrio just riding the back bumper of DG Anderson. Moves a little bit farther up. Someone with a great view of this battle is going to be William Long, but we're closer with the 42 of Max Terrio on his onboard camera. So that has settled itself out for the time being. And if there's a caution, we'll see if we can get any in-car interviews at the time. Oh, man. Terrio tried to peek a nose to the inside. We saw it there. Anderson, however, just still holding on to that 42 of Max Terrio. And now Max Terrio on top of that back bumper. Off of turn number 4 once again. Looks to the top side. Nothing comes of that for the time being for that 42. Let's see if Terrio can really do anything here off of turn number 2, or at least try and get a little bit of momentum up. But in the meantime, it's not really going to work out for the time being. But as right now, Richard Murdoch has actually gained a little bit of a gap on Sean Butler for the time being. And you never really see that often, considering that Sean Butler is the winningest driver of the season. Well, I don't believe, going to get a double check on this before I say anything about it. But I don't believe Richard Murdoch has won any races this season as of yet. He has not. So this would be great. This would be a great relief for Richard Murdoch to really try and get a race win here, lock himself in, but also get himself his first win of the season at the same time. Meanwhile, it's Andy Lee in fourth. Third place, Eric Johnson. And Johnson may be getting past there in the 33 here, just a few moments' time. He's got that 25 of Andy Lee on the inside as they come off of turn number 2 down the curved back straightaway. Not exactly a straightaway, but a curved back straightaway nonetheless. As we're already 10 laps down, 80 laps to go this time by. Andy Lee trying to figure out what can I do to really advance my position just a little bit more, maybe close in on that 88. So Lee and Johnson aren't racing for positions. Skelton and Blum, however, are going to be racing for all of the positions. Almost quite literally, they are 5th and 6th for the time being, the 86 and 10 respectively. And you can see Tim Blum peek out to the inside, possibly bump drafting the 10. Possibly bump drafting the 86 down into turns 3 and 4. In the meantime, however, it's not really going to be much concern for James Skelton unless Tim Blum decides to peek down to the inside a little bit more than he did last time around. Last time around, he peeked just half his car. So we'll see if anything comes of that. If Tim Blum, he makes a little bit of a move. It doesn't do anything much. You can see the momentum difference, however, from Tim Blum on top of that back bumper, moves up to the outside as they head down the straightaway, and somehow, some way, should be Tim Blum. Actually, will stay on the top side, and he has the quarter panel. That's going to cause the 86 of James Skelton to check up just a little bit, but now Skelton has the 42 to worry about, also on the top side. And he will quickly fall back for the time being. Look how close that 42 is. Terrio trying to capitalize as well on the top side. Terrio also racing for a position as well. Look at that, immediately cutting off the bumper. And Terrio moves for the crossover down to the inside as they enter turn 1. So Skelton going to be moving back 2 positions now. And that's going to help out Terrio and Blum in the process. just like it never even happened. They're back all single file now as we take a look at Tim Blum, but Richard Murdoch just now got passed by Sean Butler at the start-finish line. Apologies for the silence, having a little bit of a rehydration here just to make sure that my voice doesn't go by the end of the night, just like a few nights ago. So taking a little bit of preemptive caution here, but anyways, Sean Butler is trying to say, well, you know what, you've led enough of the laps so far tonight, now I'll show you how it's done. Meanwhile, Andy Lee is slowly closing in that gap, and just behind them is going to be Tim Blum and Eric Johnson battling for position. Tim Blum at the moment is on a massive tear. Got by James Skelton. That's going to try, he's going to catch, well, he caught his way up to Eric Johnson now. He'll see if he can get fully right by him, but Andy Lee peeks down to the inside for position number 2 on Richard Murdoch, as Murdoch just uses the regular racing line, not going down below the white line, but it is legal to do so. Flying up the racetrack, still side by side. It's going to be Richard Murdoch with a slight advantage there off of turn number 2. But heading into turns 3 and 4, it's going to be Andy Lee getting the advantage so far. Will Murdoch try a crossover? I don't believe he will. Meanwhile, James Skelton has the 51 of DJ Anderson just directly behind him, so hopefully he will not fall any more positions during the point of this race. We've seen the leader gap be about 0.65 seconds, just as a rough estimate. And Andy Lee has so far taken that down, while Sean Butler has gotten away with the lead for the time being. Oh, right when I say that, there goes Sean's internet connection. Manages to hang on to it, however. Everything might be fine for the time being. You can see the entire top 3 there, all within a second of each other, even though it doesn't really look like it. Richard Murdoch is within 0.83 seconds. Now scratch that 0.915 seconds of Sean Butler. Andy Lee is starting to close the gap. However, you can see on the ticker 7th, 8th, and 9th, Skelton, Anderson, and Long. I'll actually take a look at that battle. It's not even a battle, actually. They're all just spread out. There's Skelton, there's Anderson, there's Long. Although Long and Anderson may be battling out here in just a few laps. Something Andy Lee is trying to do, and I think is quite interesting, is that Andy Lee is trying to stick it to the drivers that are in the playoffs, one of which being Sean Butler, by closing that gap so far. It's now 0.25 seconds, now 0.2 seconds, back to 0.3 seconds, so we'll see what comes of this battle here in a few laps. I'm expecting about 2 pit stops possibly around lap 35. If it's about lap 35, then these drivers definitely will have to make about 2 pit stops. If it's lap 30, they're going to be cutting it close. Well, Max Terrio, speaking of pit stops, decides to pit early on. Lap 23, not sure what the issue is for Max Terrio or why he is pitting early. He is in pit road nonetheless on lap number 22. Number 23, actually. And there goes my theory of 30 laps on fuel, because Sean Butler has decided to surrender the lead, as well as another driver being Ryan O'Donnell. Oh, a little bit hot coming into pit road. So Andy Lee is officially in the lead now in that number 25, although it's only due to pit stop, so at this point this could be about a 3-stop race. Lap number about 25. Alright, if 25 does pit on lap 25, he'll pit lap 24. That gives the lead over to Tim Blum. Richard Murdoch in second, third place, back in third place, Eric Johnson. Anyone else deciding to go pit road is a little bit scarce. So some of these drivers are either they either have the wrong sets, they set the fuel incorrectly, or these drivers that have stayed out are trying some way, somehow, to stretch it to about lap 30 so they can make this a two-stop race. If you pit about lap 25, just like Tim Blum is doing, you have a three-stop race. Eric Johnson, at the moment, trying to stay out. The L1 and Murdoch is also in pit road. And that goes for the 12 of William Long as well. So let's see if Eric Johnson can hold off at least another few laps. As the first driver to head to pit road was Sean Butler. He surrendered the lead for the time being. And Tim Blum had backed up into his pit stall, unfortunately. He had overshot just ever so slightly. We'll get a replay of that here in just a few moments. Tim Blum, there's his pit box right there. Overshoots, slides the tires, has to back up just a little bit. Unfortunately, that's going to cost him. Aaron Johnson still remains out on pit road, out on the racetrack. And that goes for James Skelton in second, third, DJ Anderson, fourth, Patrick Orr, fifth, Joshua Buckley, and sixth, Kevin O'Brien. So all these drivers are trying to make it to at least a two-stop race, and it's not going to be enough for Eric Johnson, who nearly spins out entering pit road. Oh, it locks up the tires just a little bit. Anyone else in the top six decides to head to pit road? No, they do not. So James Skelton at the moment is good on fuel to try and make this a two-stop race, trying to stretch this out as much as possible. Actually, Kevin O'Brien is also in pit road now. A little bit of a late entry. But it's James Skelton in first place, DJ Anderson in second, third Joshua Buckley, fourth Patrick Orr. We'll see if anyone else decides to go to pit road this time by. Anderson and Skelton stay out. Same with Buckley and Orr. Scratch that. Buckley and Orr both go to pit road. Patrick Orr a little bit wide on the entry. Nearly misses the cone. That's a pit entry if I've ever seen one. So in the long run, this could help out Skelton and Anderson to make this a two-stop race as compared to a three-stop race from about lap 25. So 25, 50, 75, roughly. For these drivers that just stayed out, they're coming to pit road now. Oh, Skelton a little bit loose. Wow. Oh, he's going to... Oh, well, we'll see. I don't think that's going to count as a penalty. Speeding on entry, I believe, but he should be fine for the most part. But we'll see if it's 30... We'll see if these drivers can actually make their... Goodness gracious, forgot how words work for a second. Apologies. They're going to see if they can make their strategies work out. And they'll see if they can make this a two-stop race. As smooth into pit road, smooth out of pit road, well, for the most part, smooth into pit road is James Skelton and DJ Anderson. So it could be a two-stop race, considering that they pit on the lap, 29 coming to lap 30. So it could be about lap 30 and then lap 60, and you just have to hope for the best by the end of the race. As for the drivers that pit about lap 25, you have lap 25, lap 50, lap 75, making it a three-stop race. But however, you're more than good on fuel from the comparison of lap 75 to lap 90. You see a little bit of an extra buffer, nothing really to worry about. And of course, as you can see, Max Terrio is currently in the lead, just one lap. He just pit one lap sooner than Max Terrio, I believe. Actually, I believe it was Max Terrio that was the first driver to go pit road. I'll correct that earlier, as I had unfortunately mentioned that Sean Butler was the first driver to go pit road. It was actually Max Terrio. So Max Terrio is the first driver to go pit road. Sean Butler, the second driver to go pit road, as well as Ryan O'Donoghue. That's Terrio and Butler. We've seen these drivers win a lot of races. Between them, they have a large majority of the wins in this series combined. How many races, you may be wondering? Well, we're going to double check that statistic for you just to make sure. And as Sean Butler makes the pass on the inside lane, It is 12 wins combined between both of those drivers that have won the most races of the season. The only driver the only other driver aside from these two and the top two to win a race in the season is the number 10 of Tim Blum. Appropriately enough, is in 4th place for the time being. Andy Lee 3rd. We just saw the pass for the lead made by Sean Butler on Max Terrio. It's about 10 laps until we go to our double wide break. And maybe seeing some pit stops then as well, due to some of these drivers heading to pit road early. But going through the rest of your field, that is not the top 3. We have Richard Murdoch. Go back to DJ Anderson. At the moment, he's in 10th place, which isn't too bad in general. But if you're the last driver essentially in the point standings, basically in real time, it's not going to work out too well for you. He was 5th place in points coming into this race. James Skelton just in front of him, as you can see, is 8th place in points coming into this race. So Skelton, that's what hurt Skelton. Actually, no, apologies. That's what hurt Anderson a lot more than Skelton. Skelton was dead last on the entry. James Skelton needs every position he can get, and he needs to get by every other driver he can get by. At the moment, that would be William Long that's next in line, quite literally. Same with Richard Murdoch. So we're going to see if anything does come of that in these next few laps. Looking at the lap times between Skelton and DJ Anderson, looks like it's going to be, we'll wait until they cross the start-finish line this time by to compare lap times for sure. I think we even need to do that, as Anderson making the move to the outside just to make the comparison either way. As is James Skelton with a 31.599, DJ Anderson with a 31.464. And it now shows on the racetrack as Terrio, Blum, and Murdoch are projected to be your last 4 drivers, or your first 4 drivers, by the end of this race. So we're going to take a little bit of a sights and sounds here and just let you enjoy the sights, mostly the sounds, of Chicagoland Speedway. And don't worry about the volume, we'll crank it up for you as well. And it looks like, that's major problems for Max Terrio. As that's the second time that he's hit the wall, and this time it will really hurt him. and his momentum. It's not the first time he hit the wall. He hit the wall the first time heading into turn 1 after about a 2-lap battle with Andy Lee. That means Max Terrio will be forced to fall back to 3rd place. I don't believe he has any severe damage on the car. We'll see if that is the case. We can get a pretty decent angle as well. Doesn't look too bad from at least that camera angle, but then again, it is a little bit all over the place. So we'll see. Yeah, there's just a little bit of a few scratches there. Whoa. Unfortunately, I have to tone down the zoom just a little bit. But for Max Terrio in that 42, it will not help him out in this long run. And it looks like Tim Blum is going to be capitalizing on that as well in just a few moments. Eric Johnson may have just gotten passed by the 01 of Richard Murdoch for position number 5. So it's lap 45. We're going to go through your entire 14-car field here for today. At the moment, we have the 88 of Sean Butler currently in first place, your pole sitter as well. He's already locked into the playoffs for next week at Atlanta. Andy Lee trying to stick it to the drivers who are not in the playoffs, or at least trying to stick it to the drivers who are in the playoffs, I should say, as he's currently in 2nd place. Tim Blum is 3rd place. Not too bad of a day so far for him. He is projected to be, very loosely, in the top 4 by the end of this race. Eric Johnson is currently in 4th place. 5th place, William Long. 6th place going to be DJ Anderson. The driver that went to pit road was Richard Murdoch, and it looks like the 42 of Terrio that also went to pit road. So we'll hold off on going through your field as Murdoch currently goes into his pit stall, and Max Terrio was the only driver as well the last time around to go to pit road. So we'll hold off as Sean Butler as well goes to pit road. We'll hold off and go into your double wide segment as well. We'll go through the entire field, then we'll go double wide. But for Andy Lee, this is going to help him a lot, as this will be his 2nd lap lead of the night. Eric Johnson also in pit road, the same with Ryan O'Donnell and Christopher Rothrock. Pit road pretty busy compared to last time. So Andy Lee continues to lead. Tim Blum is also going to go into his pit box. He overshot last time. Now this time he's very careful. Slows down a little bit sooner. Very smart move for Tim Blum. Andy Lee relinquishes the lead as he will come to pit road. That's going to give it to William Long, who's getting passed by the 88 of Sean Butler pretty wildly as well a little bit. We just came right into the middle of that. And 184 is also another one of the drivers. Oh, O'Brien gets from the outside wall there. I'll try and get it around the outside of William Long, who slides up the racetrack. DJ Anderson, 2nd place. 3rd place going to be James Skelton for the time being. Joshua Buckley currently in pit road. Multiple drivers, multiple laps down here on the racetrack. You can see some of the damage as well on that number 2. A bit of right side damage, possibly from contact with the wall as well. You can see that side is unfortunately very, very heavily banged up as he's getting tires changed as quickly as he can. As William Long is also going to be in pit road. Not seeing much visible damage. There are a few scratches, however, on that number 12. I should just notice the country flag as well for William Long. That state flag, I believe. I believe that could be a state flag, so I will double check my facts on that one in just a few moments. Nonetheless, it is DJ Anderson with his 2nd lap lead. James Skelton also staying out. These 2 drivers weren't the only, were not the only ones. Actually, no, these 2 are the only ones to really try and go for 30 laps. Patrick Orr is also in pit road in position number 3. He'll fall back down the order. 2nd pit stop of the day for that number 981. So we'll get a double check on whether or not William Long. Apologies for the loss of picture for William Long. Actually, that is, I believe, a state flag. But nonetheless, though, it will be DJ Anderson and James Skelton. Positions 1 and 2, as Skelton definitely trying to save as much fuel as possible, trying to make it another 30 laps. Of course, you can hear the 86 coasting as well. Probably at this rate, trying to make it 25 laps as much as possible. Anderson trying to lead however many laps he can, as many bonus points as possible as well. And of course, just as a side note, there apparently is a storm outside at the moment right now, so if there is any loss with the broadcast, preemptive apologies ahead of time, just in case anything does happen. Coincidentally enough, DJ's internet instantly decides to drop just a little bit. He decides to fall off the face of the universe there. He is still continuing on, thankfully. James Skelton still second. Sean Butler trying to reel in both of these drivers, but he's about 19 seconds back, and he's probably not going to have to do much work. So Anderson and Skelton positions 1 and 2 for the time being. We will not be going double wide yet. We'll go double wide when they get back out on the racetrack, and then we'll go through your order. At the moment, these drivers are resilient right now with their cars. 26 laps total at the moment. They're trying to really reel in as much track position as they can get. At this point, they're just fighting a losing battle as Sean Butler is starting to close the gap just ever so slightly. Just more and more the race goes on, the more and more Sean Butler catches up, but let me try that sentence again. This strategy could pay out in the end, but I'm not too sure about it. Because if Skelton is saving now, then how's that going to help him out in the long run? Well, right on board in car with DJ Anderson, your current leader at this time. And he is not saving, which is quite interesting. So Skelton and Anderson both have the same idea. They are both on Need for Speed Motorsports, which is a 4-driver team consisting of Anderson, Skelton, Butler, and Buckley, who unfortunately Buckley 4 laps down now. Just got off pit road 4 laps ago. But Anderson and Skelton, same strategy, but they have different ways of going about it. Anderson is just going full out, while James Skelton is starting to save just a little bit. So Anderson currently leads the way around Chicagoland Speedway. James Skelton follows suit in second. Third place will be Sean Butler. Fourth place, Max Terrio. Fifth place is Tim Blum. And driver that really needs this right now is the 86 of James Skelton. He had dropped 7 positions, nearly out of the entire playoffs. May be incorrect on that. Let me double check that statistic. No, he actually dropped. He's all the way at the 8th place position. Now he's in pit road. You couldn't hold on any longer, and he's decided to go to pit road with 31 laps to go. Hopefully this could help him out later on in the race, but I'll have to find out then. Will DJ Anderson blink? Will he go to pit road? He does. Anderson goes to pit road, a little bit wide of an entry, and pit speed about 50 miles an hour. Scratch that, 55 mile an hour, I believe. Is it 60? I gotta double check on that in a few moments, but I believe it is about 55 miles an hour. Other than that, though, Sean Butler at the line will not lead that lap, as it will be DJ Anderson taking his 12th lap of the day through the start-finish line in pit road. So that means your field for the time being is Sean Butler in first, Max Terrio in second place, Tim Blum in third place. Expect that to change in a few laps' time. Andy Lee in fourth. Fifth place going to be Richard Murdoch. Sixth place is Eric Johnson. Seventh place going to be William Long. Ryan O'Donnell is over on the back straightaway in eighth place. Ninth place is DJ Anderson, just coming off of pit road. James Skelton rounds out your top 10. Also off of pit road, Christopher Rothrock, I believe, is in front. Yes, he is. Christopher Rothrock just in front of your leader. He is the last driver on the lead lap in 11th. Patrick Orr 1 lap down. He is in 12th. Kevin O'Brien 2 laps down. He is in 13th. And 14th is Joshua Buckley, who is 3 laps down, rounding out your field here for today. So keep an eye on this possibly brewing battle here for second place between Max Terrio and Tim Blum. And so we'll be going double wide here for about 5 laps, and we'll hold off actually. We'll go double wide with 25 to go, and we'll come back with about 20 to go. Just make it a little bit even and easier to keep track of. But for the moment, it's Sean Butler. He may get his 9th win of the season here, and he's definitely won for sure over a third of the season. It's 15 races. He's won 8 of those 15 races. Absolutely impressive either way. Something to really stick it to everybody, though, to show off that he's truly the most dominant car and most dominant driver here for this season, is winning the entire championship. Eric Johnson has just went to pit road. Not sure as to why, but Johnson is in pit road either way for the time being. So Sean Butler goes onto the back straightaway, curved back straightaway in a sense. So far, we have been caution-free for 65 laps at the start-finish line total and completed. It is 25 laps to go. Sean Butler leads around Chicagoland Speedway. This is the Racing Line Broadcasting Network. We'll be going double wide, and you won't miss a single thing. Don't go anywhere.
The most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic real world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $100,000 in annual prizes. This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Back live with 19 laps to go this time by, and Sean Butler has called an audible 2 laps ago. He's decided to go to the pit road early on to avoid any type of misconceptions here. Well, not misconceptions, but any type of errors and chance at not winning the race. It is 11 laps to go. Sorry, 19 laps to go. And it is 11 laps total at the moment on DJ Anderson's current run. He's made it 30 laps before. Can he do it again is the question. He's about 18 and a half seconds back, however. Or sorry, behind him is Sean Butler, about 18.3 seconds back, 18.4 seconds back. And Sean Butler separated. He's actually catching up as well for the time being. But in between those drivers, we have James Skelton, who was 8th place in points coming into this race. Andy Lee, who has been in the top 3 for a very good majority of this race. Very impressive run so far. Tim Blum is trying to get and stay into the top 8 of the playoffs, and Sean Butler is just directly behind him in 5th place. Max Terrio, second driver to win the second most races of the season. So we'll see if anything can be done from that. Joshua Buckley in pit road once again with 17 laps to go. Personally, I'm not too sure, as we run on board DJ Anderson here, and personally I'm not too sure if DJ Anderson can make it, along with James Skelton. I mean, they made it, of course. They made it to their about 30-lap distance, but I don't think they could really make it. I have a feeling. I think James Skelton was saving already. I think he was saving early on. It's 15.3 seconds between Sean Butler and DJ Anderson now. Yeah, yep, Skelton is definitely saving early. Trying to save as much as he can, as quickly as he can, and as soon as possible, as Tim Blum and Sean Butler pass Andy Lee on the inside in turns 3 and 4. I'll see Tim Blum, he may be able to stay in the playoffs. He was about 6th place coming into this. So if we don't get any word on who is where by the end of the night, then we will update the comment section at least. The comment section will have a pinned and highlighted, well, pinned comment saying who will be in the top 4. Actually, you know what? We'll have that in the description, just so that some people aren't 100% curious or, you know, get a spoiler out of it. But you never know. It's either going to be one or the other. But other than that, though, it's going to be James Skelton and DJ Anderson trying to save as much as possible. DJ Anderson came close to winning as well. He finished in 2nd place. It's not the first time they came close to winning, so I believe he finished 3rd place. It was at Indianapolis. Going to double check that as well. That's just going off the top of my head, but right now, Sean Butler trying to get by Tim Blum for position number 3, and it actually was the 2nd place where DJ Anderson finished at Indianapolis. Tim Blum trying to fight off Sean Butler as quickly and as much as possible. But at the moment, it is all Sean Butler for position number 3, breaking into the podium. Similar to last week, where at Bristol, where Max Terrio was trying to chase down the leaders after an early pit stop, Sean Butler's trying to chase down the leaders after an early pit stop. He has a 10-lap difference between himself and James Skelton. Actually, it may be 9 laps. We'll hold off on this. Maybe a 9-lap difference. It is a 9-lap difference between himself and Skelton, and 2-lap difference between Sean Butler and DJ Anderson. A 1-lap difference advantage going to DJ Anderson. So currently on their stint, as of the start-finish line, is DJ Anderson 20 laps on his stint as of right now. James Skelton 21 laps on his stint as of now. And Sean Butler will be 12 laps on his stint as of the start-finish line. So this is quite interesting to see if Sean Butler can close the gap and do what the 42 could not last week. It's all a matter of time, however. And we'll see if waiting that amount of time is worth it for Sean Butler. Meanwhile, DJ Anderson, I believe, has led the most laps of the race so far. 25 laps led. Eight laps to go. 2 drivers outside, essentially, the playoffs. 2 of the 7 drivers in the top 3. 3 of the 7, actually, in the top 4. One of which is already locked in, that being Sean Butler. So we'll see if this can play off, no pun intended, if this can work out for the 51 of DJ Anderson, the 86 of James Skelton, and the 10 of Tim Blum. Especially for James Skelton, he came in again, 8th place in the point standings, basically dead last. At the moment, he's saving all that he can. He's got 7 laps to go, 7 seconds separate himself from Sean Butler, and he's trying to hold on to that as much as possible. Trying to stall what could be, what could be the inevitable. But again, something that we have to wait to find out. Skelton, again, could be saving early on to try and use everything he can later. He's the first of 2 drivers to pit. Sorry, it's the first driver to pit compared to DJ Anderson. If everything works out just fine, James Skelton could find himself in the top 4. Richard Murdoch, but Richard Murdoch, speaking of the top 4, I should say, Richard Murdoch may not be able to make it in by the end of this. We'll find out again as Sean Butler temporarily drops off the face of the universe. It's all DJ Anderson out front, 5 laps to go. Could this be the third driver, actually, 4th driver, to win in this season? 4th different driver, I should say, to win in this season. The 2nd driver of Need for Speed Motorsports to win. One of which is being, of course, the 88 of Sean Butler. It's 5 laps to go. 4.5 on the back straightaway for this 51. Coming into this race, he started 8th place. Not too terrible as well. About halfway through the field, and so far has really helped him out. Interval between James Skelton and Sean Butler is rapidly closing. It's 4 laps to go at the start-finish line. 5 seconds separate Sean Butler and James Skelton, so that means, I believe, Sean Butler has used all this, everything up already. All his tires and all the momentum that he could. Now it's just a matter of the waiting game. And the last time around, it was still a 0.4 of a second advantage going to Sean Butler. But within 4 laps, I don't believe that's about 2 seconds worth. Just about 2 seconds worth, actually. 1.6 seconds. It could be James Skelton walking away with a 2nd place finish. Not 100% sure about it, but 3 laps to go. It could be all James Skelton for 2nd place, but all for 1st place, it could be DJ Anderson. We've clearly reached the point of no return, but we've been caution-free so far tonight, but we're going to keep an eye on James Skelton. He's reaching his 29th lap of his stint, and he's been saving throughout most of the race. So let's see what lap for James Skelton is like here, as we are on 2 laps to go. Still saving fuel. Watch the rev limiter over here, of course, in that side, that giant circle, of course. Watch that drop once he saves. There it goes. Just instantly falls down and right back up. So it could play out for James Skelton, but for DJ Anderson, he's currently 1st place. White flag this time by 1 lap to go for the number 51. should specify the top 4 in points advanced to Atlanta in that graphic, unfortunately. But for James DJ Anderson, he started 8th, made himself up 7 positions. I think he's out of fuel, actually. Anderson is out of fuel in the final corners. He's saving as much as possible. He may be officially out. That means it's James Skelton with a shock win. Off turn number 4, DJ Anderson crosses the start-finish line 2nd place with no fuel remaining. Sean Butler crosses in 3rd, rounding out your top 3 for this season. But James Skelton just now runs out of fuel, I believe. I don't think he'll have enough to make it back, but DJ Anderson had ran out of fuel coming to the white flag, lost the lead just like that. So once again, another 2nd place finish for DJ Anderson, where he will be in points is, wait, this means James Skelton is actually locked in. So Skelton locks himself into Atlanta at the last second after being 8th place in points coming to this race. It is James Skelton locking himself in at the last second. Looks like DJ Anderson may have a little bit more fuel. Yeah, just a little bit. I don't think Skelton has enough for burnouts, but Buckley's going to push him there either way. I think Buckley's out of fuel as well. But a shock win either way for the number 86 of James Skelton as we go through your results here tonight. It is James Skelton, DJ Anderson, Sean Butler positions 1, 2, and 3. Skelton locks himself into Atlanta. That means it's another 6 drivers to see where they will fall. Tim Blum finishes 4th. He's also in the playoffs. Maybe. We'll see where he falls. Andy Lee finishes 5th. 6th place going to be Richard Murdoch. 7th place Max Terrio. 8th place Eric Johnson. 9th place William Long. 10th place is Christopher Rothrock. And yet your 14-car field is Patrick Orr, Kevin O'Brien, Joshua Buckley, and Ryan O'Donnell. So we'll see. As James Skelton was definitely out of fuel for sure. He could only turn. We'll see what these drivers have to say in the top 3. So we'll take a quick commercial break, and then we'll be right back here with the Red Light Scrambler Series in your top 3 interview here just after this. As per usual, this is the Racing Line Broadcasting Network. Don't go anywhere. And we are back live here at the Racing Line Broadcast Network. We are here with the 88 of Sean Butler. He locked himself in at Atlanta, but luckily he's Atlanta? Wow. I don't know tracks anymore. Apparently, last week he locked himself in at Bristol. So luckily for you, Sean Butler, you still come away with a podium finish. And well, we saw that extra pit stop that you decided to take, but unfortunately, it didn't really help out. But in a sense, it did.
Yeah, I knew James and DJ were gonna play the long game there, and I was pretty much trying to drag people on the pit road. I wanted them to be the only two on that strategy. I didn't know how it was gonna work, so I didn't want to play that strategy because I didn't need to win. I mean, I was definitely running them down there at the end, but just I was kind of shocked how far behind I was at the end of that. But it is what it is. I'm glad that James was able to come home with a win. DJ, I know they barely made it on field, but did what they need to do. I think all three of us are going to be in the chase.
Yeah, at the moment it does look to be so, especially with Skeleton with a shock win somehow, which is absolutely impressive. So hopefully that is the case for DJ Anderson especially. So heading into Atlanta next week, what are you looking forward to for that race and for the season finale as well?
Well, that's the A car, the new package. It's going to be a lot of unknowns, so I don't know what it's going to be. I think it's going to be just like it's always been here, everywhere we go, and it's going to be real tight. So tire management. I mean, it could come down to fuel mileage. I have no idea what it's going to do.
It's going to be interesting, of course, to see what comes off of that as well. So it's also what practice is for, so that's going to be pretty interesting to see what happens during that as well. So before we go ahead and let you go, is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to for your third place finish here for this week?
Just all the guys over at Need for Speed. We were running numbers on our heads, and even at the end of that race, running numbers, trying to figure out what was going on. And like I said, I think we all made it into the chase. That's pretty cool. Forward to next week, and hopefully, we have a pretty good shot. One of the three of us can win it. So let's see what we can do.
And it's going to be interesting to see what happens next week at Atlanta. So we're going to go ahead and let you go. Congratulations again on your third place finish.
Thanks, Gary.
So that is Sean Butler in the number 88, finishing in third place. I believe I said second by mistake, but the driver that unfortunately for sure finished in second after unfortunately, I'm not sure. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens here. So we have now standing by DJ Anderson in the 51. Possibly ran out of fuel just at the last second off of turn number 4, at least hanging in turns 3 and 4. And I believe at that point you just decide to just accept that and then use the last of the fuel to at least make it around the pit road after the race. But other than that, though, you still managed to get into possibly get into the top 4 at the moment. What are your thoughts?
I know entering this after Bristol, especially getting in trouble, and I know James as well. I think me and him decided to do the two-stop strategy together, so we were kind of working fuel mileage together. And even though I made it one more lap than him on that last pit stop. When the shade came out, we were using so much more fuel, and I think I was worried about people catching us, especially with the three-stop strategy there. So I kind of started to push a little bit that last run, and it ended up costing me. But it's good to see James get the win. It's nice to be able to have a 1-2-3 finish for our team in Need for Speed, and we got a good shot at winning the championship for Need for Speed. But we're gonna have to beat Max, so it's gonna be a fun race next week.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a very fun race. And of course, speaking of next week, what are your thoughts for Atlanta as well, heading into that?
I'm kind of excited because this new A car, especially on some tracks, I know I race a lot at Texas, and you can move around, especially on the long run. Find speed, anywhere, and I think it's going to be pretty good. So I haven't really run good at Atlanta in the A car, but I think this new change in the A car might actually help me out. So I'm really looking forward to next week, and hopefully come away with the championship. If not, bring the championship home for Need for Speed Motorsports with either Sean or James.
Hopefully that is the case as well. So before we go ahead and let you go, is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to for your second place finish here today?
I red light, my teammates, we work hard on this, and James and I were talking about the strategy of making it to the end there, and the shade really threw a wrench in there, but we managed to tough it out and make it, so I'm glad. But I appreciate you doing these. I like going back and watching the broadcast, so appreciate you coming out and doing this.
Yeah, it's definitely amazing for sure to be a part of. So we're going to go ahead and let you go, and we'll hopefully see you next week.
Thanks. I'll see you next week.
That is DJ Anderson in the 51. Just realized, hit me during the interview with Sean Butler. That's that time of the season again, where it's the season finale. It's going to be quite interesting. And of course, next up, and finally, the last driver here on the interview list, and somehow, some way, with just an out of nowhere win. I think you ran out of fuel as well off of turn before, just after the off of turn 2, after the checkers have fallen. James Skelton, you have just somehow lucked yourself out from about 8th in the points to pretty much being locked into it, Atlanta.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, it's glad to get the win, but DJ and I were doing a fuel strategy, and we're teammates, so we were working the points, and we knew, how it would work to get us, DJ, myself, and Sean in the playoffs. So we made it. I know some people probably aren't happy, but I don't know. We're a team.
Yeah, sometimes that is the case, unfortunately. But on the bright side, though, you at least managed to lock yourself in as well. So heading into Atlanta next week, what are you looking forward to for that race?
Yeah, I just think the A car with the new package. I think it'll be a lot of fun to move around the track. I think the A car gives you the ability to do that. With the B car and the truck, you gotta run the bottom like Harvick does. And I think with the A car, once we get a little wear on the tires, we'll be able to move around and see the best driver win.
I'll see definitely for sure how that plays out. So before we go ahead and let you go celebrate your win, would you like to give a shout out to for your first place finish here tonight?
Yeah, no, I'll definitely have to give it out to my teammates. We worked the strategy. We were, just communicating the whole time, and it's pretty cool to all three of us are gonna be in the final four.
It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out next week for sure as well. So we hope to see you next week as well, and we hope to see you win the championship, possibly just as much as you've gotten that shock win here for this week as well. So we're going to go ahead and let you go. Congratulations on your race win.
Yeah, thanks, Gary.
So that is James Skelton in the 86. And of course, as per usual, before we go ahead and sign off here for the Racing Line Broadcast Network, a list of your upcoming races being Road America here in the Field Jet Stream Media IndyCar Series this Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. It will be 34 laps at Road America. It's going to be quite interesting to see how that plays out. Next Monday, it will be here for the finale, the Red Light Scrambler Series over at Atlanta for their championship finale. And over on May 5th, actually, before we get to that, for the Red Light Scrambler Series, it's going to go live as per usual at 8:05 p.m. Eastern Time. And then the Flat Out Racing League on Sunday, May 5th at 8:40 p.m. Eastern Time. It is their Richmond race for 200 laps. So it's going to be interesting to see how everything plays out here in the next week, especially on the Racing Line Broadcast Network here with the Red Light Scrambler Series. We're going to see actually right now before we go off if there is any update to the point standings. It may be a rough estimate. And by rough estimate, I mean not even close. Looks like possibly is not even close. We're going to double check a confirmation on that in just a few moments before we say anything else. So apologies for the momentary silence here to follow in the next few seconds. So apologies for the silence once again. Just as a reminder, it will be up tomorrow. So in the description or the comment section of this broadcast, we will have the drivers who are in and the drivers who are out as well. So expect that tomorrow. Check back tomorrow as well if you're watching this live right now. And we thank you all for joining here tonight as per usual. I have been Gary Weaver, the essentially one-man crew over here. So thanks again for watching here for tonight's broadcast. I hope to see you next time because it's going to be quite interesting to see what happens next week. Don't forget to, of course, subscribe to the YouTube channel to see any other broadcasts as we wrap up this little bit of a air quote farewell season of broadcasts. Using that very loosely, though. But we hope to see you next time either way. And we thank you all for watching. Good night from Chicagoland.